Jazz lose to Heat in Salt Lake, but that is a good thing.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
Jazz lose another one in Salt Lake, this time to the Heat, a team that they just beat a week ago. But that's not a bad thing. This is what we need from the Jazz. We need them to play. We need the young players to play significant minutes, and ultimately the Jazz need to lose. The Jazz are operating at a significant talent deficit, and the only way to rectify that at this time is through the draft. They must lose games. It's imperative that the Jazz lose games. This year, probably next year, and probably the year after that. They must lose games and maximize their draft potential. That's the goal. And then play the younger players. And then the third part of it is to hopefully turn those veteran players into more draft capital. Now, I don't hold out a lot of hope for turning Jordan Clarkson into draft capital. I think that's nearly impossible. But we might be able to get some second rounders out of John Collins. I think John Collins has proven himself to be a worthy player this year. His numbers are really good, and he's been really good for the Jazz. And I think he would be a good addition to a lot of teams that are in need of another big who can shoot the ball. And I think that he has some potential, especially next year when he's on an expiring contract. But Lowry's obviously the big one. Lowry has potential as long as the Jazz can continue to keep his numbers similar to the previous 2 years. He has a potential to bring back Jazz some significant draft capital, and that's what we really need to do. Need to keep Lowry's value high. But tonight wasn't. I mean, both teams really struggled. Obviously, neither team shot the ball well, and it was just a really massive struggle on offense by both teams, not just the Jazz. I mean, the Heat, with the Jimmy Butler situation in Miami, the Heat are they're certainly not right at this point. I mean, it would probably help if the Heat can just get some assets back for Jimmy and move them along, and then try and rebuild, what they have. But at the moment, it's just too soon from the whole debacle of what happened with Jimmy Butler to try and say that the Heat are in any sort of a situation that's stable, because it's not. But we know that Pat Riley knows what he's doing, and Spoelstra has proven himself to be a competent coach, and the Heat will right that ship with or without Jimmy Butler on the team. But as far as the Jazz go, there were some bright spots tonight, even though the team struggled mightily. I mean, if we take a look at the box score, the big ones that stand out, obviously, Colin 9 for 18, 4 for 4 on the free throw line, 5 assists to only 2 turnovers, positive +4, 23 points. Really another great, solid night from Colin. 29 minutes from the feet, 29 minutes. I mean, these are all good numbers. It's great. He's playing really well. This is what this is kind of what we thought that Colin could be because of those numbers prior to being injured in Cleveland. He proved himself to be an efficient scorer. Not necessarily on a good team, because Cleveland was not a good team at that time, but he proved himself to where he was a competent scorer. The things that he needed to do better, obviously not play so much with his head down and just playing like he's the only person on the court without 4 other teammates on offense. And and Hardy has worked with him on that, and he's certainly become better over the past 2.5 years. So he's improving in that area. And he's passing the ball better. Obviously, he's not a natural passer. That's not his thing. But he's, with the ball in his hands, he's obviously very quick. He can get by almost anybody. And those are his strengths. He can just blow by pretty much anybody in the league. There are very few times where you see him struggle with a defender. I saw him struggle a bit with Davion Mitchell, like when Davion Mitchell was a rookie, but Davion Mitchell arguably slides his feet better on defense. He might be slide his feet the best of anyone in the league on defense. So going into that and not ever seeing that guy before and then trying to just blow by him, that's a tall order, because Davion Mitchell, for all of his weaknesses on offense, that guy can really slide his feet. So once in a while, you'll see Colin run into a problem like that with a really gifted defender, but for the most part, the guy can just blow by anybody he wants. His issue is, once he gets into the lane, he's so undersized that he's got to be a little bit more cognizant of who he's trying to go up against, and he needs to attack the basket with a bit more discretion than he has in the past. I mean, that would certainly aid his field goal percentage. It would aid his turnovers. He has a tendency to just go 100% all the time. And like I said, Hardy's worked with him on that, and he's certainly become better at that, but he still has a ways to go. But really young guy still. He's not an old guy. He's younger than Lowry. I was really happy with him tonight. I think he played really well, and those are really positives. The other person Walker again. The only comment about Walker, he obviously only played 30 minutes tonight. It'd be nice still if he got a few more minutes, but at least he's 30. If he plays 30 or more, I think that's a good thing. I think Lowry playing 30 or more, he played exactly the same time as Walker, 30 minutes exactly. And those two guys, as long as they play 30 minutes or more, I'm actually happy with that. And the guy who led the team in minutes, Collier, fantastic, awesome. And again, he pulls up with 9 assists. So that's great. 9 assists against 3 turnovers, 3 to 1 turnover ratio. For a point guard, that's the gold standard. That's what you want. Fantastic. I mean, I love to see Collier play. I love to see Flip play because, like I said in the previous one, those, in my opinion, those are the two best natural passers on the Jazz team. And I think that it really helps the Jazz when those guys play because the ball moves. The ball moves a lot better. Those guys have an understanding, a greater understanding than the other players on the team of who needs the ball, when they need the ball, and delivering the ball on time and to the right player. Those two guys do it the best of anybody on the team. And so really happy to see Collier get 33 and a half minutes. Awesome. He only took 5 shots, but again, that's okay. And he made 3 out of 5 this time. That's okay. Over 2 on 3 still. His 3-point percentage is awful. He's something like 15%. It's terrible. But again, that's right now, in my opinion, that's not as important as showing the ability to run the team, because we all know that shooting improvement has to come in the offseason. It just has to. That's where he needs to really get. Hopefully the Jazz can hire a shooting coach to work with him and straighten out some of his mechanics, and then repetition using the correct mechanics. A lot you always hear people say, well, it's just all about repetition. Well, actually, that's not true at all. If you're practicing something incorrectly, it doesn't matter how much repetition you have, how hard you work at it. If you're doing something incorrectly, it's not going to improve in the way that you need it to improve. So The mechanics has to be straightened out to where he's doing it correctly, and then repetitive. So that has to be the goal. But the other person I want to mention, really, I mean, Cody Williams, you look at his box score, and he played 23 and a half minutes, and he's a negative in the plus minus. He's a plus minus. He's a negative 18. Now, on the surface, obviously that's horrible. He's by far the biggest plus minus at negative 18 on the team. Nobody else is even close to that. And we know that Cody has a number of struggles. He's dealing with a number of things right now. But you also look at the box score. Okay, so he takes 3 shots. He was 1 for 1 from 3, and then 0 for 2 on 2-pointers. And then he also was 2 for 2 on 3 on free throws. So he scores 5 points. And he also committed 5 fouls in those 23 and a half minutes. Not great, but at least that shows that he's making an attempt on defense, and he's not just playing some matador defense like a number of other young Jazz players have a tendency to do. And I'm not going to name names, but one of those guys did not play tonight again. And so I'm not going to get on Cody like I get on some of those other guys about not even trying. But if you look at Cody's box score, okay, so he has the negative 18 and the plus minus, and he only has 5 points. But he also had 3 steals in those 23 minutes and 2 block shots. No assists again, which isn't great, but 3 steals and 2 blocks. So he's making contributions in other areas. I mean, if you're struggling on offense, shooting the ball, which Cody obviously has with the Jazz. He's had some nice games in G League, but with the Jazz, for the most part, I mean, it's just a struggle in every game that he plays. But if he's not shooting the ball well, and he's not contributing on offense particularly well, I mean, like I said, no assists, but do other things. Get some rebounds. Now, he had 0 rebounds again, and that's unacceptable. Again, the guy is 6'6", so having 0 rebounds is not acceptable. But again, young player, he's trying, and the 3 steals and 2 blocks, those are 2 fantastic numbers. Absolutely fantastic. So when he's struggling on offense, contribute in other areas, put more emphasis in other areas, and put up numbers in the box score other than just your shots and the points you score. And that's what I hope that he has some, as the season goes on, I hope that that's an area of emphasis that he tries to develop more. Just try and fill out the other areas of the box score. Contribute to their team in other ways. Like we saw that. I saw an interview with Oscar Shibwe, who's on the Jazz G League team. And he was saying, well, when he started playing basketball, he just wanted to help his team win. And he figured the best way for him to do that was just to get his team more opportunities to shoot the ball by getting offensive rebounds. So that's what he concentrated on. He just concentrated on getting rebounds. And that obviously translated to Kentucky, where he just was an absolute monster on the boards at Kentucky. And he's certainly continued that in the G League with the Jazz. I mean, the guy is just putting up crazy rebounding numbers, and he's just looking to contribute to his team. So maybe he's not scoring a bunch of points, but he's getting rebounds, both offense and defense, and contributing in other ways. And far too much emphasis is being placed by young players on the shots they take and the points they score. There's so many other aspects to basketball. It's just not about the shots that you take and the points that you score. So that hopefully the Jazz coaches are continuing to harp on that with the young guys, that they get better and better and better at putting up numbers in other areas of the box score other than just points and shots. That has to be one of the emphasis of developing these young guys. But like Filipowski tonight, again, that guy only took 3 shots. He played 23 minutes. He only took 3 shots. But also in 23 minutes, he took down 11 rebounds. He had 1 assist, 2 steals, 1 block. That's fantastic. So Kyle played 23 minutes when it was a -1 in the plus minus, but so he only scored 4 points. It's not. It's okay. You're not going to score a bunch of points. You're not going to get a bunch of shots, and you're not going to score a bunch of points as a rookie, and probably not as a second-year guy either. But if he concentrates on those other areas of the game where he can contribute, even when he doesn't have the ball in his hands on offense, I mean, if he can get some extra shots for the Jazz through offensive rebounds, or he contributes on the defensive end of the court, that's fine. That's exactly what we want, especially from the young guys as they develop. So again, I think Kyle had a really nice box score, in my opinion. I don't mind that he only had 4 points. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a few more shots and a few more opportunities and get the ball in his hands a bit more on offense, because I love the way he passes the ball, and I love the way he sees the floor, and I love the way he seems to think the game. So I really like that about Kyle. But, okay, so he didn't get that. But the 11 rebounds, awesome, fantastic. And that's exactly what we want. So overall, for the game tonight, I was pleased. They lost the game. Cool. That's exactly what we want. We want them to lose the game. And the young guys got a lot of time. And hopefully Bryce gets back. I mean, Bryce is obviously on a real roll with shooting the ball. And, hopefully he gets over whatever he's dealing with flu or whatever he has. And hopefully he can get back to the team soon. But overall, really happy with the way that it went. Really happy that Collier got a lot of time. And the Jazz just need to keep this rolling. Keep playing the younger guys and lose the game. That's the goal. So anyway, those are my thoughts for tonight. And hopefully we get another positive game with the next one. And for tonight, I think that'll be it, and we'll see you after the next game. Good night, all.